Things just keep getting better for the Spurs as they make another signing, bringing in NBA champion, NCAA champion Adam Flagler on what is looking to be a training camp deal. Just once again revealing the Spurs' master plan for developing their roster in the NBA and likely the G League, as he brings one key asset that has been a common trend with all the other recent Spurs signings. We got to dive into his history, how he has an interesting history with Jeremy Sochan, what he brings to the table, and much more. All that coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. And you know what? We'll just start right here with Adam Flagler. Now, I have his career G League stats here because look, he's played in the NBA a bit. We'll get to those stats in just a minute, but he spent a lot of his career in the G League, where he's averaged 14.6 points, 3.5 boards, 3.5 assists, 42% from three. Now, he only played one game for the OKC Blue last year, as he spent a lot of time with the big club, the OKC Thunder, but in that one game, he put up 31 points. I think it was 8 for 11 from three, but the Spurs have signed him on what is looking to be a training camp deal. Not too many specifics about this deal yet. The official Spurs account has not tweeted about this signing, nor the signing of Micah Potter, so we'll have to wait and see on that, but from multiple sources, including Jeff Garcia, Spurs Kens 5 there, Spurs have signed Adam Flagler, undrafted in 2023, been with the OKC Thunder and their G League team since 2023. He's 6'3", he's a guard, and Spurs Reporter kind of gives a little bit of a deeper dive into it. He went undrafted in 2023, but he's a former Baylor teammate of our boy Jeremy Sochan, so that is actually really interesting. But the big thing is he helped the OKC Blue win the G League title, earned a ring with the Thunder last season, now he'll fight for a roster spot in San Antonio. So by the way, so G League title, I mean, he really only played one game with the OKC Blue, so I don't really think that counts as helping them, but I guess. But, you know, there's pictures of him with the Larry O'Brien trophy. You can go find them. Maybe I'll flash one up in the video here. One sec. NBA champion Adam Flagler, baby. But yeah, the big thing is he's a, champion on multiple levels. But what he really brings is that he's a catch and shoot threat. Not only catch and shoot, by the way, this guy can pull up off the dribble pretty well as well. Again, we'll roll those highlights in a bit. He's a smart off-ball mover. And again, he's won a bunch of titles. He doesn't really create a lot on his own, which is something that, I mean, you could see it a bit in college, though he was not that bad in college creating on his own. But, again, he wasn't drafted. But during his most recent stint in Vegas, you saw one of the clips here. Well, this is him with OKC coming into the game, pointing, yes, I was Spurs. He was playing for the Hawks in the Summer League this year, so he was due for a new team. But the Spurs are the ones that brought him in, and he didn't do bad with the Hawks. But really, the thing that Adam Flagler brings is, again, that championship level experience, but also like NBA experience. And that's something that I think the Spurs have done a really good job of with these recent signings. Again, Micah Potter, 30-something games with the Utah Jazz last year, and he started 10 of them. Adam Flagler, now, you're looking at that three-point percentage. I know it's not pretty at the NBA level, and there was a bit of a meme going around with Thunder fans this year that Adam Flagler was single-handedly lowering the NBA's three-point percentage and lowering the Thunder's three-point percentage, because I think at one point he missed like 19 in a row. But again, like, when you're getting into the NBA and trying your hardest to break in, it's like, it's not easy getting used to that. But again, the G League stats, I think, speak for themselves. Like, and in college, the dude could knock down threes. The dude shot 42% in the G League from three over his career. So I think it's good. But that's the one aspect I want to talk about there. Not only does he have that championship level experience, oh baby, but in the NBA, G League, I guess technically, whatever, but NCAA as well in 2021, the dude brings shooting. And that just seems to be the common thread right now. Yeah, Harrison Ingram was just a guy we brought back, but Riley Minix also brought him back, but he is a great shooter, and he showed that in the Summer League. He's a stretch kind of four. He's really more of a four than anything else. But then you also bring in Micah Potter, 6'10", 250, and he can knock the three ball down. You bring in Adam Flagler, this time a guard, who can knock down the three ball. And if we're talking about developing our training camp, like pushing guys to their limits in training camp, but also building out an Austin Spurs team that will probably lose a couple of players, I think this makes a lot of sense. And if you look at the Austin Spurs last year, you look at their stat leaders, Malachi Flynn was first team all G League, right? 22.6 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 1.7 steals. And Flynn, I know he has a 50-point game in the NBA, which is still one of the craziest things in NBA history, if you ask me. Is Malachi Flynn scoring 50 crazier than Wilt's 100? Leave your comment down below. But again, like some of these guys, it's not going to be quite the same team. Again, there's been some trades. Not all these guys are going to come back, and we'll have to wait and see. But we've already started to fill a bit of a void here with Riley Minix, who, again, did play with Austin last year, but it was only 3 games. And in those 3 games, he averaged like 14 or 15 points, but he got injured, right? So when you lose him, we got to re-up. There we go. We got to fix that. But when you have Riley Minix coming in, bringing some shooting, he'll probably level up his game. He looked to have developed a lot coming off that shoulder injury. I think he's going to be great. You bring in a guy like Micah Potter. You bring in other guys who could go down to the G League, in guys like maybe Lindy Waters and David Jones Garcia. Not totally sure on those, but still, regardless, you're bringing in a lot of shooting to Austin. And what you're also doing is bringing in guys with NBA experience, with championship experience, that if you're San Antonio and you get injuries, because let's be honest, like, injuries happen. They just always happen. And we hope nothing serious happens, but bringing in a guy who can shoot the three ball, if you desperately need some shooting on your team, let's say Jones Garcia is hurt or whatever, and Champagnie hurts himself, and you just want some bench shooting, guess who's there to fill in? A guy like Adam, well, let me bring up the stats again. Where are Adam Flagler's stats? There they are. You bring in Adam Flagler, 42% from three, and he can just come in a pinch. Same thing with Micah Potter. Are they long-term solutions? No, absolutely not. But building up this kind of backlog of shooting is a very interesting move by the Spurs, and I think it does signify that they've addressed that this is an issue, right? You need shooting, and so they're filling up the G League with it now, guys that could fill in a pinch, and I fully expect that the Spurs will go further with expanding their shooting on the main roster as we get into the season and as we move into next season. Again, we have some guys here. Again, Harrison Barnes is probably going to start. We don't know how Carter Bryant's going to shoot. I want to see fully healthy Devin Vassell, see how his shooting numbers can creep back towards that 38-39% from three. I'm hopeful. But I want to also just touch on this really cool thing here. Bringing in guys that are familiar with other people in the organization, because this is the Baylor team. The one season Jeremy Sochan had at Baylor, the leading scorer on that team was Adam Flagler. Now, this was not the championship year. Of course, 2021 was the championship year. But having Sochan and Flagler being familiar with each other, Flagler being second on the team in minutes per game, he shot 39% from three, including lots of clutch shots. Well, again, in the 2021 championship year, eventually, he showed that he was really good in college. Not that many turnovers either, only 1.7 per game, 3 assists, 13.8 points. I think it's really cool that you have that dynamic as well. The Spurs bringing in guys who are familiar with each other. And again, not that that's the only reason we brought in a guy like Flagler, but you do have to imagine they consulted a guy like Jeremy Sochan and bringing him in. And Jeremy Sochan's another story. I'm so excited for this because Eurobasket preliminaries are going to get going now. I think tomorrow, like within the next couple days, we're getting those preliminary games and the actual tournament starts in about a week. Sochan's going to be going there. So anyway, you have to think that the Spurs asked him about a guy like Adam Flagler. Not that they needed to, but that's just the way the Spurs are, right? So anyway, as much as this is a small signing and it's not something that's going to affect the big club San Antonio Spurs over the long term, it's something interesting. And to me, again, it just signifies, hey, we love that championship level experience. We're bringing in multiple guys who played 30 plus games in the NBA last year on training camp deals that could very well report to the Austin Spurs and help us out in the G League. And then again, if you need them in a pinch, bring them up to the big club. I love these depth signings the Spurs are doing. And I know it's not a huge impact for a lot of you fans. I love to bring this up though, because to me, every move is significant. There's nothing that's unintentional, right? This is an intentional move to bring in a guy with experience, a guy who has shooting to help the organization top to bottom. Leave your thoughts on Adam Flagler and this situation down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. If you want Adam Flagler to help lead the San Antonio Spurs to an NBA title, you know you got to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.